Hey, welcome. This is a regulatory lawyer's guide on the best way to profit from crypto assets and the investment thesis that gave me the option of retiring before I was 30. Let's get straight into it. The purpose of this video is to explain what our investment thesis is, why it's the most effective way to profit from crypto assets, and why this is the best risk to reward strategy for multiplying your wealth. And so quickly, before we start, my name is Frank. I'm a licensed attorney. I worked at Canada's top crypto law firm, and I was the youngest member of their digital assets division. I've consulted crypto exchanges on what assets they could legally list, and I've written out their policies and procedures. I've negotiated against the government on behalf of my crypto exchange clients, and some of the documents I wrote helped the first crypto ETFs get approved for Canadian stock exchanges. I've been behind the scenes of how the mainstream crypto industry really operates, both from the government's perspective and the crypto exchange's perspective. And this insider knowledge, you could call it, is what created the investment thesis that gave me the option of retiring before I was 30. This is the thesis that I want to share with you now. And I'm telling you about my background because you probably don't know me. Lawyers aren't known for being public figures. And there's a lot of BS gurus on the internet, and truthfully, I don't want you thinking I'm one of them. But also, I don't want you just taking my word for it. I'm a lawyer, let me present my case, then you can decide on the verdict. If that sounds fair, then we're cool. What I'm sharing with you now, no exaggeration, less than 1% of crypto investors know about. I've only shared this with a select handful of investors to date, and here's the results so far. Roro here, you made 174% profit, then using the same thesis, you made 238% on a different asset shortly after. Eloquent here tripled her investment, that's a clean 300% profit. Now there's Kino, 88%, Toffee, 70%, Oopman, 75%, and trust me, I could go on. The point is, these are all results from this year's crypto asset market, and they use the investing thesis I'm talking about right now. There are three parts to our investment thesis. 1, you must get access to the back-end primary crypto markets. 2, you must invest in crypto native businesses, not meme coins or NFTs. And 3, through these acts, you must position yourself for the upcoming bull market cycle. Let's talk about the first part, why you need to access the primary crypto markets. If you're watching this video, you already know that there are 2 crypto markets. Your crypto exchange apps on your phone, so that's Coinbase, Binance, Crypto.com, Kraken, these are the secondary markets. They used to be my clients, and they only show you around 5% of the assets in the market. The other 95% are in the primary crypto markets. The primary crypto markets are the infrastructure in which all crypto assets are built. You may have heard the term decentralized markets, decentralized finance, or DeFi. This is what I mean when I say primary crypto markets. What the secondary crypto market exchanges like Coinbase do is go into the primary markets themselves, choose the few assets that they are legally allowed to list on their platform, then show these assets to you on their app, and then charge you a fee when you trade. That's all they do. The reason why the crypto exchanges can only show you 5% of the assets is because of Section 2A1 of the Securities Act of 1933. To comply with the definition of a security, which is essentially an investment connected to a business, crypto exchanges are legally prevented from listing crypto assets that may match that definition. And the problem is, this definition is outdated and it hasn't evolved to cater for crypto. And so under current regulations, most crypto assets could fall under the legal definition of a security. And so to avoid more lawsuits, these secondary market crypto exchanges are either 1, not listing new assets anymore, or 2, deciding to stop serving Western investor markets entirely. And what this means is that most good new crypto assets are not becoming available to Western investors. This is the exact reason why Binance has stopped serving the United States, Canada, and the UK, and this is why the SEC is suing Coinbase right now for listing assets that they classify as securities. And this is why, despite there being 22,000 crypto assets in the overall market, Coinbase only shows you 200 of them. That's 1%. The unintended consequence of this regulation is that just like how in traditional markets there's a divide between the private investment markets and public investment markets, a similar divide has been created in crypto, the primary crypto markets and the secondary crypto markets. In traditional financial markets, unless you're an accredited investor, which is an individual with assets excluding real estate of $1 million or more, regulations prevent you from accessing the private markets. And that means less than 10% of the US population can access these private markets because less than 10% of the US population are accredited investors. And even if you are part of that 10%, unless you're highly connected to venture capital or some other SEC-regulated private equity broker, you won't get access to the high-quality investments. And even if you do, the buy-in is at least $50K per investment. So one bad investment and your retirement funds are dented. This restriction and barrier to entry is bad for you because the private markets are where all the money is. It's where all the growth is. More than $2.9 trillion of new capital went into the private markets in 2019, whilst only $1.4 trillion went into the public markets. This means the private markets had twice the investment, yet less than 10% of investors can even access it. It's extremely unequal. And this unequal divide is actually one of the reasons why the rich keep getting richer. They can simply multiply their money in better investments, investments that you cannot access. The divide that's been created in crypto is actually even more unequal. In the secondary markets on Coinbase alone, there are 110 million registered users. And in contrast, there are only 1 million active users in the primary markets. That's literally less than 1%. But even though crypto and traditional markets both have a divide, it's not for the same reason. In traditional markets, governments use regulation to divide the private and public markets by deciding who qualifies as an accredited investor and who doesn't. But in crypto, there is no government regulation because fundamentally, crypto is decentralized software, and it's impossible for the government to regulate globally decentralized software. So knowing they can't regulate crypto itself, the government is trying to regulate the middleman who provides you the access to the crypto assets. This is why they're currently suing Coinbase. You see, crypto exchanges are legal entities. They're not decentralized software. They are subject and vulnerable to legal restriction. But the software is not, and the individual is not. They remain free. And so this creates a massive arbitrage opportunity because what determines who can access the primary crypto markets is not regulations, but the individual's skill and knowledge or lack thereof. If you have the skills and knowledge to be part of the 1% who can access the primary crypto markets, then you get to access them. That person gains a massive advantage over the masses. This is because you don't need to wait for a secondary market crypto exchange like Coinbase to list the asset. You can go into the primary markets yourself, get the assets earlier, and buy them before the crowds and at cheaper prices. This is how the real money in crypto is made. It's capitalizing on the arbitrage opportunity of buying in the primary crypto markets and then selling to the secondary crypto markets. This is a matter of getting paid for your skills and knowledge. And let me show you what I mean. Avalanche, AVAX, was available in the primary crypto markets on the 23rd of September 2020, but it was listed on Coinbase more than 12 months later on September 30th, 2021. And by this point, it had already grown by 1,600%. Here's Solana, SOL. SOL was released into the primary markets in March 2020 at 22 cents per SOL. Let's say you waited 2 months until May and then picked it up for 57 cents per SOL. Well, Coinbase didn't list it for another 13 months until the price was $24. If you picked it up in May for 57 cents, you made a 4,000% gain. Another example, Axie Infinity XS, was released into the primary markets in March 2018, but it was listed on Coinbase almost 2.5 years later on August 11th, 2021. People who waited for their crypto exchange to list it lost out on making 12,000% gains on that investment. That's why the first part of our thesis is to access the primary markets. If you learn the skill set to access and navigate it, you'll simply make more money. Now, part 2 of the thesis. Now that you're in the primary markets, what do you invest in? It's a good question. History has proven that the best investments are investments in businesses. When you look at the Forbes list for richest people in the world, this is obvious. Bernard Arnault has a net worth of $170 billion. He owns businesses like Louis Vuitton, Hennessy, Christian Dior, and more. Mr. Elon Musk, with an estimated net worth of $200 billion, his businesses are SpaceX, Tesla, Twitter, and several others. Jeff Bezos owns Amazon, the business of North America, and that alone has given him a net worth of $114 billion. I could go on, and I could talk about Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, or Warren Buffett, CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, both of whom have become billionaires by investing in businesses, but you get it. The richest people in the world either own or invest in businesses. This is because unlike speculative assets, businesses generate real revenue by selling real services to real people. If their service is good, they grow. And when they grow, their investors get paid. This is obvious in traditional markets. We know this, but in crypto, for some reason, we've forgotten this. At least most have, but not all. While most people are gambling, throwing money at meme coins and monkey JPEGs, NFTs, there's a handful of people taking advantage of the real opportunity that crypto provides. And capitalizing on this is a generational opportunity. It comes around once every several decades. And the opportunity is being able to invest in a new, growing category of business that is being built right now in the primary crypto markets. These businesses are leveraging new technology to revolutionize traditional online digital sectors such as finance, gaming, cybersecurity, social media, virtual reality, and of course, artificial intelligence. And the crazy thing is, you have the opportunity to invest in these businesses now and profit from their growth before every other person who is stuck on the secondary market crypto exchanges not knowing how to access or navigate the primary markets. And the potential is huge. This is why the United Nations says the potential of blockchains to disrupt industrial sectors, commercial processes, governmental structures, and economic systems seems to know no bounds. The underlying tech behind these businesses is transformative, and they're being built by some of the smartest people on this earth. Engineers from tech giants such as Apple, Google, and Meta are quitting their jobs to come build new businesses in these primary markets. So take advantage of them, invest in them, and profit from them. Unlike traditional markets where, unless you're an accredited investor, you can only invest in companies after they have an IPO, after 10 years of growth, in the primary markets, you have the option to invest in these businesses at any stage you wish. See, this is what your options look like in traditional markets. By the time you're legally allowed to invest, you've already missed out on more than 90% of the company's growth. And even worse, less and less companies are having an IPO in traditional markets, especially after COVID. In fact, in 2022, there were only 181 IPOs. For this small list of investments, you are competing with 300 million US investors who all want into them. At best, you can hope for a 5 to 10% gain on your portfolio because that's the only amount of space left for these companies to grow. In fact, some may not even grow at all. For example, Instacart. Do you know why the biggest tech IPO of the year immediately started going down in price after being listed? It's because all the private market investors in traditional finance, the VC funds, the investment banks, the SEC brokers, bought Instacart years earlier and are dumping it on you right as you have the option to buy for the first time. Meanwhile, in the primary crypto markets, there are 150 new investment options for you every 24 hours. And even better, there's no restrictive regulations, meaning you invest in them at any stage you wish. The combination of more investment options, the ability to invest earlier in the asset's growth, and the growth multiplier that comes from investing in revolutionary tech is why your chances of making a 10x, 20x, and 100x multiple on your portfolio in the primary crypto markets is much higher than any other market. This is why I was able to multiply my small 5-figure investment into a 7-figure portfolio in just 3 years, actually. And these types of gains in this type of time frame are simply not possible in traditional markets. This is why the primary crypto markets are the most profitable investment markets to be in. The other markets just do not compare. The average year-on-year growth rate for real estate from May 1992 to June 2023 has been 5.4%. The average historical annualized growth rate of the S&P 500 since its inception in 1957 has been 10.7%, which sounds not bad until you remember that in the same time period since 1957, the US dollar has lost 91% of its value. In comparison, since its inception in January 2020, the primary crypto markets have grown from a market cap of 1.7 billion to 50.3 billion in November 2023. That's a 2,800% growth. At these growth rates, a $10,000 investment over 3 years in real estate would give you a profit of $1,700. S&P 500, $3,500. But if you had invested in the primary crypto markets in January 2020, 3 years later, you would have had a profit of $275,000. The returns you can make from decentralized markets, the primary markets, are not comparable to any other market. And it's still growing because it's still early. The people who are building it, the people who are using it, and the transactions that are happening have never been higher. The fundamentals did not stop growing or improving even in the bear market. So now we're on part 3 of the thesis. Positioning yourself for the upcoming market cycle. The thing to understand about crypto is that it's cyclical. Since the inception of Bitcoin in 2009, crypto has operated on a 4-year cycle. There is a consistency, there is a pattern. This is largely due to the Bitcoin halving, which is a technical, pre-programmed event that is written into Bitcoin software to counter inflation and maintain scarcity. Every 4 years, the amount of new Bitcoin being introduced to circulation gets cut in half, which is why it's called the halving. As you can see on the chart, there's 4 phases in every cycle. There's the bull, followed by the bear, accumulation, expansion, then bull again. Right now, we're in the expansion phase and the bull cycle is next. This is the mistake that most investors make. They don't understand this cycle. They only look 2 months ahead and 2 months back. So they think crypto is dead because of the cycle peak in 2021. These people are mistaken. If we look back at technological innovation, we've seen this pattern happen many times before. In 1879, electricity was first introduced to the household. Malfunctions caused the houses of New Yorkers to burn down. But that didn't mean electricity wasn't useful. In 2000, recently, when the dot-com bubble burst, more than 150 companies collapsed and over $5 trillion of market value got wiped out. And that's more than the GDP of Australia and the UK combined. Yet did the internet die? No. And the same is true right now. In fact, it's a good thing that bubbles burst because it eliminates the junk and reveals the businesses with good fundamentals that were able to survive. Take Amazon, for example. It survived the dot-com bubble. Today, it's a $1.3 trillion company. If you had invested just $10,000 into Amazon after the dot-com bubble had burst, today you would have had $1.8 million. The primary markets are where the crypto equivalent of early stage businesses like Amazon are being built. And this is what billionaire Mark Cuban says when he's speaking about the primary markets. I'm quoting him here. They are like the early days of the internet. I think it's going to be huge. If this was 1995 again, coming up with these types of applications, I'd be going nuts. And with BlackRock and other financial giants pushing hard to get the Bitcoin ETF approved on America's largest stock exchanges, this bull cycle may come sooner than we even expect. In fact, recently a fake news article was published saying that the Bitcoin ETF was approved and the price of Bitcoin soared by over 30% in an hour. If a fake article can cause a spike like that, what do you think will happen when the real article is published? And after the SEC's court defeat, it's very likely that the Bitcoin ETF will be approved in the coming months, and that is the opinion of a regulatory attorney for crypto. Galaxy predicts that once that ETF is approved, Bitcoin will increase by 74%. When Bitcoin does go up, the rest of the market will follow. But the assets that grow the most are not the mainstream assets. The biggest gains, I'm talking 10x, 20x, 100x, come from assets in the primary markets that the mainstream doesn't know about and doesn't have access to yet. In the 2013 bull cycle, it was assets like Peercoin, Ripple, Doge. In 2017, it was IOTA, Dash, and NEM. And most recently in 21, it was Polkadot, Solana, Uniswap, Polygon, and the others you see on the screen right now. If you've ever heard of people who invested a few thousand into crypto and walked away with millions, this is how they did it. It wasn't through buying random tokens on Coinbase, it's by conducting proper diligence to find these assets early and putting the effort in to acquire them. So to summarize, the best way to profit from crypto assets right now is to 1, access the back-end primary crypto markets, 2, invest in crypto native businesses, and 3, position yourself for the upcoming bull market cycle. This strategy is how the elites of traditional finance invest in their market. People like Warren Buffett, Larry Fink, Peter Lynch, they get access to a market that the masses do not have access to. They invest in growing businesses on the verge of a technological breakthrough, and they then position themselves ahead of the market cycle. We do the same, but we do so in crypto markets where the potential returns are a lot higher. We value invest into emerging businesses in an emerging market. A $1,000 investment can genuinely do 10x, 20x, and even 100x return, and I am speaking from experience. This infrastructure is not just an upgrade, it's a fundamental improvement. It is the future. An investor's dollar will go further in the primary crypto markets than any other market. This is why, from a selfish standpoint, you need to learn how to get access to these markets, because being able to navigate these markets will set you up to profit for the next decade of the growth that happens in them. This is a proven system. This is what myself and others have done previously to multiply, then re-multiply our portfolios. And this is what we're going to do again in this upcoming cycle. Right now, we're in market lows, but this is the only time to be investing because it is at only this point of the cycle where deployed capital can do 10, 50x gains. If you want to change your life, this is literally the time and the only time. And with the Bitcoin ETF on the verge of being approved, the rush of demand from both retail and institutional investors may trigger the bull cycle to happen even sooner than we expect. As a regulatory lawyer who's worked with crypto exchanges, the government, and has seen behind the scenes of how the crypto industry really operates, just listen to me when I tell you this. It is irresponsible for you to not have exposure to this asset class right now. Thank you for listening.